Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated beat writer who covers the Las Vegas Raiders. Super excited to be with you today. Fired up, jacked up. The start of mandatory mini camp. If you're a football fan, you just love this time of year. And I'm a guy that literally gets to cover it for you as a beat writer and standing on that field in that heat. I don't care, man. 3 days of football, a bunch of interviews. It's going to be a lot of fun. I got a lot I want to talk to you about today, but I want to start with this. Every time I pull up to that facility, every time I go to Allegiant or wherever they're playing on the road, I understand that I'm one of 32 beat writers and for SI. And it is a privilege and an honor to work for you. It's a privilege and an honor to be your beat writer. And I know that you don't have to come to me. There are lots of good people who cover stuff, but you choose to. And I want you to know that I'm grateful for it and I appreciate you. I appreciate your family and I appreciate all that you do for us. And every single time that I sit down to write a letter or do a podcast, my thoughts are about you, my bosses. And really, you are my bosses. My boss gets a kick out of that and agrees, by the way. Um, he goes, I never heard it put that way. And he goes, and I agree. I think that's a great way to look at it. But I think about, does this inform? Does it bring information to the table? Whatever. And so I personally just want to thank you all and let you know that from my family to yours, every single day, when our family takes time to pray together, one of the very first things we pray about is for all of our listeners and readers that God would bless you and be with you and your family. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you. I want you to know I'm trying desperately to listen to you guys when there's things that you want. Multiple people have asked me about doing live shows. Now, I'm not familiar with those. Um, I have been on some podcasts that are live, a couple of national. Um, I have been on a live show a couple times with my friend Graphic Raider, which is a great fan podcast. I'm going to be going on a live show with my good friend Samoan Raider. Wonderful man, by the way. I generally just have a lot of respect for him. He's a terrific person. And Graphic is also, but I just haven't been able to get on with Samoa and make it work. But he's a wonderful, wonderful person. And then I was on, I think, twice with Raider Cody, another good guy, and I appreciated him having me on his podcast. So I've done a couple with Raider fans, those 3 Raider fan podcasts, and then I have. I don't think I've ever done any others that were live, but I've done several around the country. I am unfamiliar. I'm not an IT guy. And so I fully confess that to you, but we are working on it. I would really like your feedback. Now, I don't read the comments anymore. I don't. So many of them are wonderful, but some of them are just plain vitriol, and I just don't have room for that in my life. I, I'm going to be working on that, though. We're kind of coming up with a plan. So, and I don't want to just read people that, oh, Hondo, I like you. I don't mind the ones that disagree with me. I'm just about the vitriol. But uh, in the comments, if you'll put this in there, would you be interested in a live shows? I'm thinking about doing a live show. I don't know when. Maybe I would do one on a Tuesday night, coming out of the game week, and then maybe on a Friday night or a Thursday night. I'm not sure yet in that window of where I would do a live show. I'm just literally I'm at the plenary stages right now. So I would love to hear from you guys because it does no use for me to do something and to not have an interaction with you. Also, I've never talked about this to the best of my knowledge on this show, but we do have people you can become a member here. I think it's $4.99 a month. And we are considering doing a couple times a month a members only show where we would all be together kind of like in a Zoom format where I can answer questions. We could talk about things. That's just something else we're thinking. We're trying to look for every way to continue to engage you guys. But I will tell you this, any engagement that doesn't take me away from, I will do a podcast every single day, 365 days a year, Raider content for you guys. If we have one for the members, that's great, but we're not going to take away a podcast from everybody. That we keep this free. That's a rock solid conviction of mine. I have no problem doing one for members, and we have tremendous appreciation for the members that join. And I think there should be benefits to that, but I won't give a benefit and take one away from the audience that has built this. As you know, everyone likes to tease me, including my friend Greg Martin, for the word exponentially, but that is how we're growing, and I will never ever change from that. It's why I love about Sports Illustrated. I mean, we're producing over 10 articles a day. I think someone told me the other day, last month there were 31 days in the month, and we produced, I don't have the number right here in front of me, so if it's not 100% accurate, I'm not lying, but somewhere between 340 and 350 articles. And I love that SI. We're free. And as long as it keeps growing and everything else, why change that? You guys have made that awesome, and we appreciate you for it. So again, I'd love to hear your comments about what you think about a live show. If you'd even be interested, it would be obviously just like this, completely free. The member one wouldn't, but that would be something completely separate. But if you like that idea and that's something that you find of interest, I'd like to hear. And if you're like, nah, it wouldn't interest me, I get that. I get it. So then you don't have to put any comment. But if it would, I would just like to hear from some of you and get your thought process, if that's okay. I was asked recently in an email, would you consider doing, if you do live shows, because I was on a radio interview and somebody asked me, have you ever thought of doing live shows? And I told them, yes, we've thought about it, but I don't have a plan. So someone must have heard a podcast off of that or whatever and said, would you think about doing one for the international audience? And yeah, I would consider that. So anyways, a lot of things we're looking at. And but I want to just hear from you and get your feedback, and because you're the reason I do this. All right, today we're answering emails, and obviously it's depending on when you're listening to this today. Practice is either just getting started or just about to get started, or practice is over, and let's get into it. So the first one comes to us. It says it's from Mike in T-Town. Hondo, Marvin Lewis was the D coordinator for the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Trent Dilfer was okay. Hall of Fame tight end. Shannon Sharp. Average wide receivers. And a decent running game. My question is, do you see the similarities to this year's Raiders? And do you think the D can be a top 5 defense, Mike in T-Town? Well, I'm gonna start at the back and move forward. Well, of course, I think they can be a number one defense. They were number one last year once Antonio Pierce took over. So, absolutely, 100%. Now, I think Aiden's ceiling can be higher than Trent, but I think that's at this point in his career, very favorable comparison. I don't think the Raiders have I don't think the Raiders have average wide receivers. I think Devontae Adams is going to have his best year as a Raider this year. I think Jacoby Myers is a number one receiver. I think Trey Tucker is going to be, you're going to see Trey Tucker where you saw Henry Ruggs in year 2 take off. I think they're better at wide receiver. Hall of Fame tight end. I don't think they're at a Hall of Fame tight end, but I think they got 4 really good ones, 2 potential studs. So yeah, I think this is a very fair. I think this team, remember, I said the floor to me is 9 wins is the least that you can have. You can go as I could find 11 wins reasonably. So I predicted 10. And that's how I do it. So yeah, good email, Mike. In T-Town. This one comes us from Luke in San Diego. What's up, Hondo? What's the word on our QB3 battle? Right now, does Bradley have a shot, or is Brown most likely going to win it? I think Brown has the inside track, but Bradley as a practice squad guy right now, I think that can change over camp. But I think right now, if I had to predict where it stands, I think that's the thought process. But that's why you got camp. Everybody's competing. Any one of those four could win it. You may say, come on, be a realist. I am. Carter Bradley just killed it. I think he could move to 3, 2, or 1. Do I expect that? No. Do I think Anthony Brown could? I do. Do I expect it? No. But everyone's going to get a fair competition. I think Brown right now has the inside track. Next, this is from Michael in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hondo, hope your family's well. My question is, if the Raiders have a successful season this year, success means 1, winning the Super Bowl, 2, making a deep playoff run, or 3, just making the playoffs. Do you think the Raiders would give their coaching staff raises? I read Kansas City Chiefs do all they can to retain their coaches for various reasons. Your feedback's appreciated. Go Raiders. Again, Michael in Charlotte. Now, I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but only once or twice. So I'll address this a third time, and it's a good one. Years ago, my wife and I were having dinner with a general manager and his wife, and we were cooking over a bonfire. Actually, him and I had done some fishing while the girls and the ladies and the kids played, and we were just talking about assistants. And he told me how he goes to his coach every year and says, all right, let's go over your staff. How do we think they performed last year? Then we grade them. And then we go back and say, okay, how many other people want your staff? And his belief was the smart organizations pay their staffs the best. Because if you get guys that everybody wants, it means they're good. And then you pay them and keep them. And he used to always say guys that hadn't earned raises, and there wasn't a great explanation, like a tight end coach that saw his top 4 tight ends get injured. There wasn't a great reason for it. Let's look to replace. And he said, and every year I was constantly asking my coach, hey, can we upgrade here? And if not, why not? So, yeah, I could totally see that. 100%. The Raiders want to keep their staff in check. Next is Mike from Chinchilla. And Chinchilla is in Mexico, according to Mike. Dear Hondo, I follow your content and I think it's great. Do you think the Raiders quarterback room is being overlooked in a scenario that if QB1 is hurt, they have QB1B ready almost at the same level? Last year, a ton of quarterbacks were hurt, Mike and Chinchilla. Mike, I'm going to answer this, but I also want you to know I addressed the second part of your email in a personal email back to you. That's very intriguing, and I want to talk to you personally about that idea that you had. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, I think it's completely overlooked. We've actually written about that at the site and went down and broke down the actual numbers. I think the Raider room is completely overlooked, but I think part of it is maybe not that it's overlooked. I think it's easy for people to go at the Raiders because it's click, 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 because Raider Nation's so big. But absolutely, I agree with your scenario 100%, Mike. Good morning, Raider Nation. Is it just me, or are the Raiders getting zero respect from the NFL sports world, media, and commentators? Well, I guess we should be used to it because it's mostly seems like we're getting the toughest NFL schedules, bad bye weeks, questionable referees, such as Tuck Rule, and may I say, hit jobs like email leaks. The media thought the Tom Pelesco hire was a bad choice. AP hire wasn't celebrated as a minority hire, for our fellow black man, which I must remind the NFL the Raiders hired the first black coach in modern history, Pro Bowler Art Shell, and made beautiful. Okay, sorry, this wasn't edited, everybody. I'm just going to try to get to the question here. Um, okay. I believe all of this from Al Davis and John Gruden's lawsuit. What's your thoughts, please? That's from Rodney S. Yeah, I think they're completely disrespected. Now, some of it's the Raiders' fault. The Raiders essentially, I mean, a couple of times, but haven't done enough in 20 years to stay at the forefront of the expectation. I'm sorry. I think that the celebration of Antonio Pierce should have been a lot more than just because he's a black guy. He was the best candidate for the job. I mean, look at what he did. Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that it's not being more talked about. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think you minimize that AP. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people say, the Raiders should be getting more respect for hiring a black coach. I mean, stop. That's almost disrespectful to AP. And here's what I mean by that. AP was the best candidate for this job. And if you say that he got it only because of his skin color and not because of the quality of work he produced, you minimize him. I'm not minimizing his race. I'm saying don't minimize it to, well, he was just hired because of his color. No, he wasn't. I said this all along. If I was hiring a coach for 31 teams in the NFL last year, I would have looked at Jim Harbaugh. But for the Raiders, it was a no-brainer, Antonio Pierce. A no-brainer. And depending on where my team was, I would have looked at Patrick Graham over Jim Harbaugh, depending on where the team was. So no, I agree with you. I think it's overlooked. But I love the old adage: if you want respect, go earn it. Go earn it. And I'll tell you a great story. I knew a guy whose son was competing on a high school football team with the coach's son. And the son was very angry because he felt like he was the better quarterback than the coach's son. And the team felt that way. Well, they didn't want to play him. So the coach goes, so he says to the coach, can I move to safety or defensive end? And they said, sure. So they're having a live practice, a live scrimmage, which nobody does this. No red shirt on the quarterback. And my buddy's kid blitzed from the outside, just caught the kid right, wasn't a cheap shot, broke his arm. Now my buddy's kid went from second string quarterback to first string quarterback. And oh, by the way, ended up getting a scholarship to go play in college. I mean, just go earn it. You want respect? Go earn it. Listen, you don't think the Chiefs have respect for the Raiders? They sure as heck do. Why? Because they earned it. They smacked them in the face. And listen, I think it is fair to talk about the disrespect, but I also think it's unfair to talk about it and not mention if you want respect, go earn it. Go earn it. I got an email several weeks ago that talked about, people appreciated my wife being on the podcast, and a guy said, what do I do to get my wife to respect me? Earn it. Now maybe she's just a person that's unhappy. I can't do anything about that, but with my wife, I just work every day to earn her respect. And it's the same principle of the Raiders. You want it, go get it. And then if you're a Raider fan, quit clicking on the people who give the disrespect. I'm not going to name the guy because I know him, but I know a national media guy who used to trash Derek Carr. Then the Raiders get rid of Derek Carr. Oh, this is ridiculous. What a dumb move. Why? Because it was all about clicks. And he knew it got the clicks. You want respect? Go earn it. You want to talk about the Raiders winning? Go win. That's why Al Davis said it best. Just win, baby. All right, let's get to the next one. This comes from Sherm. Hey, Hondo, was watching your show. I watch your show a lot. You're one of the best. What do you think of the chances of Chris Smith making the team? Very good. Very good. He's only in year 2. Was a superstar in college at a very high level, an impactful player. like Jacorian Bennett, had some struggles with confidence last year, learning the system. I think it's going to be terrific for him to have Gerald Alexander. I'm working on my predicted roster right now, which I'm going to put out probably Monday after training camp. My pre guess at the Raiders on the 53-man roster, and Chris is on it. Next, this comes to us from Daryl Booman in Oxfordshire, Great Britain. Hi, Uncle Hondo. I listened to the pod from today and went back and watched videos and reports from other media on the subject of the Raiders. And the level of disrespect for our team seems to be heavily evident. Obviously, not from yourself, but I would like to know, in your opinion, will this spur the team in a way to show a chip on the shoulder to prove a point? Thanks. I'm going to give you a couple of points here. At this level, I don't know that media is going to spurn them on. Now, if a media member were to write something, like there's some media members that took a lot of shots at Thayer Mumford, and he's got receipts. There were a lot of media members that took shots at Antonio Pierce, and he kept receipts. A lot of media who taken some shots at Max Crosby, and they kept receipts. I don't know that they do it to spurn them, because all of those men are highly motivated. I don't think they need people to spurn them. But I think they keep receipts to remember. I had a Raider player say to me, I think it was last year, I had made some comments about him, and that I thought he was a very good guy. He needed to get better at something. And he came to me and he said, you know what? I really appreciated that it wasn't an attack on me personally. It wasn't that I'm a bum. You talked about I belonged in this league, but I had to show it by doing X, Y, and Z. And he goes, you know what? I totally agree with you. And he goes, my mom sent it to me. And he just appreciated how I did it. You can be critical. I've never had an NFL player ever get angry when you're critical. I have seen them get angry when you're a jackass. And people that can't point things out without being a jackass, nobody likes them. I have no problem when people say, hey, Hondo, you say exponentially too much. You know, hey, Hondo, you whatever. No issue with that. That doesn't bother me. My skin isn't so thin. Sometimes your critics are the only ones telling you the truth. But I don't like anybody that's just a jackass. And I don't think you do either. Not in the least bit. And you know what? Those people, I just don't respond. I just don't. That's why there are very few of the comments that are vitriol, but I just don't read them. And my staff will come back and say, yeah, we kicked somebody off today for dropping F-bombs or comments about your kid or just something that was vile. Okay. Thanks, whatever. I just don't mess with it. And I would challenge, respect has to be earned. So do I think you don't get to this level and need to be spurned? Now, classic example, Michael Jordan would take any slight and he would almost build a hatred against the person he was competing against. So on the field, I can tell you what other players say spurns them. What other coaches say spurns them. Media, it's more of a keeping receipts. Next, Baltimore, Maryland here. This is Chris, Baltimore, Maryland. Saw your podcast mentioning some sent a long email with film attached. You have such a genuine, warm, and caring personality. It becomes really easy to forget you're not my friend. I'm sure this happens to you frequently. Again, I'm sorry for the info dump. I won't do it again. Have a great weekend and hope your family as well. Chris in Baltimore. Well, first of all, let me just say a couple things. I didn't know what you were talking about till somebody reminded me that I talk to people about how to get emails on the show. And one of the most important ways is to keep it short so many. And if it's just a long, it just gets deleted. Because when you get voluminous amounts, um, you just can't read it all. It just, you literally can't. Um, in fact, I was joking with my mother the other day and about something, and she said to me, I am not one of your listeners. I am your mother. If I send you an email more than 2 paragraphs, you will read it. Yes, ma'am. And so, but that's why. It isn't because you did anything wrong. There's no apology necessary. I just need you to understand, because of the amount of information that comes in, it's just literally impossible to read it all. So I wasn't doing that pointing you out or mocking you. I was literally reading it so that people would know how to get your email read. And so I apologize for that if it came across in mocking form. It was not the intent. And I certainly don't want you to feel bad. And I consider you a friend. So don't blow it off. You're my buddy. Cheers. Next one. I'm showing this for a reason. I drink out of mason jars. Hondo, watched you on the show with Coach Walsh the other day, and he teased you for drinking White Lightning. Are you literally drinking out of a mason jar? Peggy B in Lansing, Michigan. Yes. Yes. I drink out of a mason jar. I'm a big man, and I drink out of a mason jar. I have for years. It's my favorite drinking glass. My wife hates it. She hates it. I don't care. I love it. And the funny part is, my youngest son, Dexter, is 22 months old. All he wants is, if he doesn't have a sippy cup, he wants a mason jar. It's pretty funny. Next, this comes from Steve A. in California. I'm a Raider fan since 1970 and have been watching your channel for some time. I really like the information you put out pertaining to the Raiders, but there are two negatives that I have to pass on to you. One, some of your videos have a tendency to break up. I'm not sure about that. Now, you're the first person that's told me that, but I've asked a couple, and I was told sometimes maybe your internet connection is not well, and that may stop the feed. I'm not aware of that, but I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. And then two, there will be times that you mention you are 53 and consider yourself old. Well, I'm 74 years old, so that must mean I'm a young man. Anyway, point being, in my eyes, you're very young and you should not consider yourself old. Far from it. I remember when I was 53, and I wish I still was. Keep up the good work giving information about the Raiders. Raider fan from Oxnard, California. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, sir. I take that correction from my elder. I guess I'll start saying to some of you, I would probably be considered old. How's that? But to you, sir, I appreciate you getting a hold of me. Thank you, as my elder, for bringing correction, and I receive it, sir. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing part of your day with me every day. Next one comes in and says, Hondo, tell me one Raider, one that you think is going to blow the socks off of everybody this year and really surprise some people. That comes to us from Timothy H. Timothy H. is in Buffalo, New York. See, we've talked about a lot of players. We've talked about money players. So I don't know that I can pick one that nobody's talking about that's going to blow some people, blow their mind. I will just say I think Devontae's going to have his best year as a Raider. I think he is poised to have a big year. But let's go with Thayer Munford. Let's go with Thayer Munford. I think Thayer's going to shock a lot of people. I think he's going to shock a lot of people. Next one. Hondo, why don't you shut up? I've heard that before. Don't tell us not to click on clickbait. We'll click wherever we want. I don't need you telling me or your fat lips blabbering, trying to tell me what to do. I literally hate you more than anything. And that's saying a lot because I hate a lot of things. You covering my Raiders makes me miserable. And every day when I tune in, it just reassures to me how much I hate you. I would love to see you drinking out of that glass one day and to drown yourself and suffocate right live on the air. That comes from Martin W. And Martin is in California. Martin, do you need a hug? Come on, buddy. Bring it in. Come on. You need a hug. You need a hug. You know what I appreciate about you, Martin? I'm going to tell you 3 things about you I appreciate. Number 1, you listen every day, and I'm grateful for that. You don't have to. You choose to. And I want you to know I appreciate that. Number 2, your email had some vitriol for sure, and I don't read a lot of them. It's because of that, the 1% like that I don't. But the person who read it just thought it was humorous and thought I'd get a kick out of it. And I appreciate you put your name on it because it came from an email address where you work. So I looked up on the internet that company, and it really was you. I appreciate you. You put your name on it. I can deal with that, Martin. Don't think your bosses would appreciate some of the other emails that you've sent from their work. But I appreciate you put your name on it. I respect you for that. You may not believe me, but I'm being completely honest. I do. We live in a society, people like to take shots and they don't put their name on anything. I'll tell you the third thing I appreciate about you is I have found in my life that people that hate a lot usually have a lot of hurt. And a lot of people that have a lot of hurt withdraw. And clearly you're not withdrawn. And so I respect you as somebody that's probably had a lot of hurt in his life that hasn't allowed that hurt to just make him become a hermit. And so I want you to know something, Martin. Your email so touched me that for the next 30 days, I'm just going to make sure every morning when our family's praying that we pray for you and your family and whatever hurt you've been through, that you'll be able to find relief from that. And I'm not going to pray that you like me. I'm not interested in not trying to build a following for Hondo. I'm just going to pray for you. And I'll tell you, the idea for that was from one of my family members. They said, I think we should just pray for him for a whole month. So we're going to do that. God bless you, Martin. And you may not like it, but I'm now considering you a friend. And you don't have to consider me one. But you can't control what I consider. And Martin W., you're my buddy. And I literally may send you an email back when I'm down in California for training camp in Costa Mesa. Maybe we can go get a burger. My treat, because we're friends. That's what friends do. God bless you, buddy. You're my guy. Last one. Hondo, I never thought I could get excited about special teams. And then I saw the Tom McMahon interview. You are right. That guy rocked it. I'm just curious. Do you think players are as excited about the new rules? Do you think our media excited about it? Because I'm totally fired up. I could listen to that guy do a press conference every single day. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Can't believe it's coming out of my mouth. I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth about a special team guy. This is from Cecil J. Cecil J. And Cecil lives in Louisiana. Yeah, Cecil, I think everybody's excited about the kickoff rules. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun. And everybody is talking about it. All right, so I want to give you a quick talk now about what's coming up on the podcast. If you didn't catch yesterday's podcast, Aiden O'Connell was on. He is one of our terrific writers covering the Raiders. I mean, he's great. He hasn't been on in the past, not because he did anything wrong or wasn't good enough. It just some things were going on with his job and busy. And But I'm going to be I'll be talking to you probably Friday's podcast. So Wednesday and Thursday's podcast will be right here from Raider headquarters, from OTAs. Fridays is going to be, what I learned from minicamp. And then next week, I'm going to begin a series of podcasts talking about the 30 biggest things I'm looking for heading into training camp for the Raiders. Going to be talking about players specifically and things. So I'm really excited about now building up into that training camp in Costa Mesa. I'm really excited about being in Costa Mesa. I don't know if there's a black hole club in Costa Mesa but as you guys know, I've traveled around the country and gone to some of the Raider black hole chapters and done appearances where we get together and talk and I just talk about the Raiders. I don't know if any of you live around Costa Mesa, if that would interest you, if there is a black hole in Costa Mesa, if you can email me, get me that information. If you want to set up something, since I'm going to be there for several weeks, I'd love to meet some of the fans down there in Costa Mesa and just get to know some of you. So if that's possible, if that's something that would interest you, but we got a lot coming on the podcast. Hope you continue to pay attention. Remember, go to si.com/NFL/Raiders. And follow me at IG at Hondo SR, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenter. And then lastly, if you don't like the emails, if you have more in-depth ones or you have other ones that you want, you could send me an email. Spartan Nation Mail, MAIL at yahoo.com. Spartan Nation Mail, MAIL at yahoo.com. Put Raiders Q&A in the subject line. Remember, keep it less than 2 paragraphs. You got a better chance of getting it in. And if we get multiple subjects, we just pick the best one and answer that. So thank you for joining me. It's time to get out to practice. God bless you all. Have a great day.